Right. Thank you, and everyone, for joining us. Internet of Value Foundation, New York, episode 151. And for all of those who listen to this information in the future, I hope you guys find it as valuable as I know I do every single day. The diverse amount of mindsets and perspectives and individuals who come in and speak in the spaces on the topics that we have usually posted above. But, welcome, Shellfish and OC. I think you guys joined the space faster than I did today. And Quack and Bear and 2222. Welcome up, guys, or welcome to the space. Sorry, and feel free to come up if anybody would like to. Probably gonna do a quick little space today. I posted a video. I'm gonna go get to post up top if anybody would like to watch it, either in the progress of the space going on right now or afterwards. Um, just in reference to game theory, if you want a little bit more of a scientifical, in-depth knowledge of where the theory itself is derived from and the meaning of the theoretical structures in which can be analyzed inside of this particular word, this defined structure of understanding of, articulation of the way that we interact. All interaction could be done in some sense, depending on your perspective of it. But yeah, I mean, today, I'm going to run off of what we were talking about yesterday when speaking on consciousness and different schools of thought, like Buddhism and non-dualism, from things like the Veda and the other as we perceive them to be old texts that we have that speak about some sort of metaphysical quantum layer that could be the underlying physical yet subatomic and electromagnetic frequencies of dimensional realms of interactions that make up the substrate of our reality, and furthermore into the realm of what consciousness is and why game theory is so important to it. Welcome up, Shellfish.
Hi, Death Ranger. Hi, Space. How's it going? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, yes. Let me actually retweet the space too. I don't think I did that yet. So, Shellfish, game theory. What are your thoughts on where we may go with the space today in relation to the topics that we were speaking about yesterday?
I mean, well, I know the prisoner's dilemma, but there was a gentleman in another space that's in cybersecurity that was talking about another thing that's better than game theory. I think it was like physics calculus, or yeah, I think it was physics calculus or something along that line. I didn't catch the actual exact name, but he said that it was more effective than game theory because I guess game theory there's always a loser. So I'm gonna have to look into what that was because I had never heard of that.
Well, it's not that
Yeah.
necessarily that there's always a loser, but in a reward-based system, the of course the incentive is to have the higher reward, and so maybe you could, it's more of a perspective possibility of it. But what was the term you used though?
Oh, I think he said it was something about
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just right in the end. Game theory, as much as it's defined in a particular scientific methodology way that was written by, a particular individual, John von Neumann, in like the 1940s, the instances of understanding the theoretical structure behind incentive-based interaction, you can take this from a complexity of different places, and all of this is right in the school of complexity science. So the reason I asked that, why do I ask? Maybe for you to start that part of the conversation off, and so the message that comes across, the instance of creating a a generation generating a inclusive environment can only truly exist if you're speaking about it from the terms of community rather than perspective of individual. And so, having interaction in the conversation in itself, this from a theoretical game theory structure of me trying to have the incentive for other individuals to come up and conversate with us, it's very high in the totem pole, right? I mean, you hear a specific speaker individual speaking about something themselves, and sometimes the incentive to come and interact, right? It's not there. I mean, you're getting typically what your mind, what the theoretical structure of why you entered the space to listen to the space. Now, of course, you know if your agenda is to come in and obviously you have something specific you want to talk about, there's some different instance in that when you could say that the the reward structure has been incentivized in a different metric for that particular individual who's inside of that community, and so they use that to their own advantage, play the game in the as I would like to call it, the substrate itself. So this brings us to a state in which I like to call it consciousness or possibly awareness. And so depending on how conscious you are or aware of the state in which the substrate is acting upon, you can be the water in the river. Instead of trying to benefit from riding the river, if you will have it, where you may hit dams and blockages and tides. Being the water, being able to flow within inside of the system, I think is from a sociological means of substrate, can help create a different metric of incentives that you are able to play within. And Shellfish, you have your hand up, so please go ahead.
Well, so one of the things that I had posted about like a day or two ago, where like the future tech was going was I guess they considered it like a cognitive based classrooms, which is kind of like what we're doing in here, where the algorithms put you with specific teachers as your interests peak. And I did notice more and more the different people that would come in would start talking about the stuff that I specifically was like, just talking about or just thinking about. And it's been more and more frequent over the years. And the last few days, I'm starting to notice it have an uptick again. So I didn't know if you noticed any of that or if anybody else has experienced that. It's just some kind of silly thing that I've noticed. Like when you notice a white car, then there's a million white cars on the road. Um,
What was the specific thing that you had asked if I noticed?
Damn it, I don't even know if that was really a question or more of a statement at this point. But I don't know. I mean, is that like an incentive? Do you think it's like an incentive based cognitive programming? Like because you're getting more people. Um, I don't know, because it's kind of like reprogramming the people, right? Through these algorithms. So I guess would that be part of the game theory? Because that's where we're at right now, right? Game theory, reward based systems, um, based on paying attention.
I may have not fully understood your question.
Yeah, maybe I'm not.
Yeah, think big on it maybe for a second. Alkaline, welcome up in the space here, man, and thank you for raising your hand. Please feel free to jump in.
Death Ranger, Death Ranger, thank you, my brother. I appreciate coming up. Shellfish, I think I understand exactly what she's talking about. And metaverse, we're talking Starlink satellite mixed with Neuralink technology, and we're talking about like really, we're talking about quantum entanglement, right? Once we go into a quantified realm of computing and technology, this is mixed with like she was saying, consciousness and emotion, and this is when they're going to unify, the basic, the algorithmic emotion of the cell from the human body with the cell of the tech, with the AI, and this is when you're talking about the actual matrix. You're jumping into the metaverse yourself. And you're the new Neo. Well, what was that? Ready Player One. You're in there. You can buy upgrades, and you can you know sing like Mariah Carey, or you can have a Halo or Modern Warfare, uniform, and a warthog, and drive through the streets of, Futureverse. And man, the tech is going to be so crazy, and it's just who's going to want to adapt to it. Who's going to want to really, chip their brains, and quantumly entangle their cells with a digital, or something like that. I digress.
It's very interesting, Alkaline, and so I'm actually going to do my best now to actually attach the 2 points that both you and Shellfish had made, taking the word that you had mentioned though, in reference, emotions, right? When thinking about something like ET, right, emotional intelligence, as we may suggest it to be called, this being relative to a deep enlightenment state of awareness when Shellfish had mentioned before about viewing the white car, noticing that she had seen a white vehicle, and then now all of a sudden she can't stop seeing white vehicles. It's just something she's just noticing now. The theoretical structure in that sociological pathway that's been in some sense programmed right into her mind, that sequence of events. I think there's a very really interesting question on the entanglement between that type of structure, as we may think of it as persisting, and alkaline taking that to that further step of. I like how you brought up Neuralink and things like brain chips, and there's BrainLink, and there's BCI, and there's many already. Neuromorphic chip designs where there's integration into the body that's able to have a digital output, and the maybe the structure and means of the societal understanding that how do you as a society uh, begin to grasp that type of thought structure where the theory is you might look at the chip and you might say I like that particular chip, right? And I can't stop thinking about that particular chip all of a sudden. I mean, that just in tune with the white vehicle. She saw the white vehicle, and now she feels like everywhere she's going, she's seeing these white vehicles. Man, now maybe I should just buy a white vehicle, right? Um, I think is a really interesting relation to the way that structure and its interaction and our interaction to that creates the structure actually persists. And Dayton, man, welcome to the space. I'm glad to see you're here, and I haven't gotten to speak with you in a week or so. So if you'd like to jump in, you could either take it from where I was speaking, or anything on the topics above where your own opinion is on something like game theory. But yeah, welcome to the space, man.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think I kind of tuned in a little bit when you guys were talking, discussing the Neuralink side, and but yeah, the kind of options that we're going to have, in a market where these chips are going to become more prevalent. I'm sure Neuralink won't be the only company to explore this. They're probably the more, well, clearly they seem to be the more, further along the track. They've got a lot invested into it. They've got two patients that we know about. They've done a lot of research, on the animal side of things. They're moving through clinical trials, and they're addressing real world needs. Starting with patients, who have mobility factors that are hampered, due to injury or a number of other things. But we're going to see this kind of builds, you know. Not just a medicine in terms of like fixing something that may have gone wrong somewhere along the line. Either you incurred an injury or you were born, with a condition, but also just enhancing, you know, the human mind as well. That's certainly going to be explored. Accessing information and being able to have conversations. And being able to talk to people through these things and being able to control hardware and being able to write code and all these different things, tying it into game theory and just general consciousness, giving inputs to AI and interpreting outputs and just everything's going to kind of eventually probably be done through this. We're going to, I think, slowly but surely eventually start seeing a reduction in, you know, um, input things like keyboards and this other stuff. I think we're going to see a big push toward this eventually. Now, how fast people adopt it kind of remains to be seen. I think people getting over the little hurdle of putting a chip in your brain is going to take probably some work, in some venues. But I think the medical side is going to be the foot in the door for that.
Yeah, I just want to jump in from where you're saying, right? Because yeah, that's where they're gonna start, right, with the paraplegics, right? Because that's what they're gonna do. Certain, like a person paralyzed from the neck down, right, and they have no, substance of motion in their body, right? They'll put them in a coma like state, right? And in this reality, they're, you know, pretty much, a vegetable, right? And when they put them onto the Neuralink and then they set them into a future verse or something like that, right? And they go to this new metaverse and now they can walk, they can talk, they can sing, you know all they got to do is just buy upgrades. I'll buy the new pack that came out, and then they buy a new pack, and this is a shooting pack, and they got to fly. Now they can fly, they got a flying pack, they can you know you can do whatever you want in the metaverse, right? And those will love it, right? They will never want to leave this world, right? Their body will remain in a coma, just like in the Matrix, right? They'll put these oxygenating, IV systems on them, and these life supports where it's keeping the vessel alive, but their consciousness will be on this, you know, inside this data system, or will it be in this data system, right? They can actually, obtain your soul and put a fake inversion of you onto that data system and tell the people, wow, look at him. He's really there, and it's really your dubbed, you know, what do you call that? Deep fake, right? And you're like, hey, everybody, look, yes, I made it. I made it to the metaverse. I'm here. Look, I'm walking, I'm talking, but it's actually, and really they stole your soul and you never make it there, So that's the chances you have to take with this as well. I digress.
Yeah, that was a little far there, Alkaline, but let's go over.
I always go over the moon sometimes.
Let's
Yeah,
roll
I
over
just
to
throw my
game.
hand up for that one. I got a little sidetracked. I'm sorry. It's just like
It's
I was thinking. I was speaking more in terms of like keeping here in the real world, not like sending people who are kind of trapped in their body from an injury into the some sort of nether regions of matrix. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to
they,
keep that.
they call it the ultimate void.
Okay,
The
I get,
ultimate
all right,
void.
man. I hear what you're saying, but what I'm getting at is keeping it in the medical realm of, being able to allow people who don't have the ability to speak to communicate with the world around them and to interface with the world around them through technology to make their lives better, not kind of, you know, get to put them into some sort of medically induced coma and, send them off to some cyber la la land. I wouldn't want to do that to people. Not that people won't kind of
Well,
engage
that's
in them.
exactly what happens.
Right.
That's exactly what happens with the Neuralink. They put them into this medically
No, they
induced
don't.
coma. The vessel,
No, they
no, the
don't.
vessel, yes, the vessel, yes, and then the
Alkaline,
consciousness goes
alkaline.
onto
If
the
if
data
we put
system.
it, if we ask them to put in fine print that they won't steal your soul, will you do it?
That's a good one.
That was actually a pretty nice one there. And so of course, I respect your opinion, Alkaline, but I just like Ed Dayton had said, I'm going to keep it more in the realms of I have a specific my own agenda, right, that I have in the space, and
I didn't mean to get dark. I apologize. I didn't mean to get dark.
it's okay, don't worry. Um, And so yeah, let's keep it going though on this thought though, right? Game theory, the theoretical structure, and something you had mentioned before, Alkaline, right? Even thinking about something in a metaverse situation, right? The incentive to reward an individual who's going to be participating in a metaverse or biological chips, synthetic chips, and when I say synthetic I really just mean um, the material that's being used is not something of organic structure as the same things that we are comprised of, so silicon based instead of carbon based. But these different all of these different options that I think are going to be very relevant in the next 5 to 10 years, and the sociological structures, the interaction that it increases of benefit between you and I, or you and any other individual out there, or you and task that you may be completing. I think it's really going to be very interesting where we begin to see, and this is dating back to your example before, why we're going to see probably very specific task driven, um, incentivized chip marketing occurring. Neuralink's hot on the medical field. I mean, they're already showing that they can take somebody who's paralyzed from the neck down and give them the ability. And there's already two patients, just like you had mentioned, right? And this is they're doing things from a public standpoint, which is just so incredible that they're basically.
Hey, Death Ranger, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Alkaline.
How do you think you'll be able to access XRP in the future? Let's say 2030 and beyond. Do you think Ripple will have banks? Or do you think Ripple will become the bank?
I think I'm gonna kick you down for today, Alkaline. But if you want to have this conversation in the future, I am totally gonna be for it. And it's nothing against you. It's just very much so off topic, and I'm gonna I'm gonna keep it because I have an agenda today, and I have only another 20 minutes or so that I have for this space to keep going. So I appreciate you though, and I'm going to try and get back on my thought wagon. Dayton, if you want to jump in from what I was saying, though, please feel free to as well, and I'll.
I think you were on track with the medical side, yeah. But of course, good competition, breeds good innovation. So any other companies that kind of want to, venture companies that would look to you know, build upon this or build their own, type of chips. I imagine the process. I don't pretend to be an expert in the medical field or how chips go into brains, but I think it's an exciting field to explore. Because there are a lot of aspects of human life and human existence that I think can be improved upon this. The more we understand about the brain and the more we're able to help regulate certain things that maybe for one reason or another, a person may not be able to regulate in their brain, chemical levels or electrical impulses, or dealing with epilepsy or a host of other things. Restoring vision. I think we talked. Elon talked early on about making the jump between, like, say, a person with a spinal cord injury, making the jump from the brain around the injury, to an unaffected area to restore mobility. There are just so many interesting aspects from the medical side alone, let alone, just increasing, computational power and, access to information real time and all these other aspects that are going to come online. And then when you start integrating, other peripherals, like, thinking further down the future, hardware, you know, vehicles, prosthetics. There are just so many different ways, in which it could be applied. It's really exciting. So I'll kind of leave it there. That's just the kind of the Neuralink side. I haven't seen really any examples of any other chips, so I kind of can only speculate what could be done. But I think seeing another company at least attempting to do it, would be interesting at the very least, and drive innovation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you're right. There are very few and almost none that have really talked about things that they've been doing publicly. I know there's if I'm not mistaken, it's called Brain Link that's in China. And there is also the BCI, which is the brain control interface, which is still a civilian use case. But yeah, Shellfish, please go ahead.
Okay, so I used to think of brain to computer interfaces as you like interacting with your cell phone, right? But now I'm kind of wondering if it's actually like in your thoughts, like you'd want to see how well um, you were compatible, like if there was like a rejection rate, right? Does that make
Yeah, and
sense?
so if I had to think from a long term standpoint, right? what would give you the trust in this, as we coin it, of course, AI, which is a very vast term for the amount of definitions that can fall behind it of possibilities. But what builds that confidence, right? And of course, us from a sociological means of society, a lot of it has to do with relevance in time. And I think, if I had to say, well, what gets us to that point where you can walk into the facility, it scans your brain or your, neuroplasticity of your skull and uh, cerebrum and all of the um, structure inside of your head, right? And then take it to that next step where it, architects a custom design that's made specifically tailored for you. Well, I really think we start with things like we have today, large language models, right? We start with the audio changers and the video editors of these of course deep fake scales, and I think it grows from there. And so it's like this process of steps that we've had to go through. And of course, this is, we're stemming back already a couple of years, and it's been magnitudes of growth. But man, it's yeah. I just like to hear you say it, Shellfish, because that's how I think it probably will be, and I think it will be much more in depth for that couple of
You
years.
know, when you're saying that, I'm actually thinking about all the psychological tests that they do. Is it? I know I'm going to butcher this word, but it's called the Rorschach test, where they take the ink blot, and each person sees something different, right? And they're able to do the psychoanalysis on you. Um, Obviously, you can do that with your texting, your prompt, seeing like the emotional whatever behind it, but also Midjourney. Like, I wonder if that is actually these art forms are actually a giant psychological like Rorschach test, kind of doing a
Rorschach?
psychological. Thank you. Is that what it is with the ink blot? Is that how
Correct.
you pronounce it? Thank you. Thank
Correct.
you. If that is kind of like doing the psychological buildup as well. It'd be interesting. I don't know. Looking behind the curtain is, yeah, it'd be pretty interesting to see what they have on all of us so far.
Yeah, memes from in describing some sort of sociological uh, synapses of understanding, whether we are aware of it or not, of course. But yeah, it can't be understated how powerful memes are. And yeah, I mean, going all the way back to things that we have historical wise, like the Egyptians and even scriptures from India and even sutras from like the Punjabi. There is what seems to be a lot of that same theoretical game structure, the trying to procure action that causes an action in which the most beneficial outcome for us is, health or increase in technology, wellness, understanding. And so, I think it's really interesting, of course, game theory being something that is more recent in the way that we define it, back to 1944, I think it was, for John von Neumann that wrote his first book on game theory, coining it the way that we kind of use it today, which any greater theory behind the game of increasing the benefit of technology. I mean, this is why I think sometimes when people speak about AI being a Pandora's box, it's all of technology, right? All of the understanding of the increase of these beneficial possibilities is a really fun conversation so far. Glad to see you're back, Sugar, on your account there. Anybody who wants to come up, give some last minute thoughts, add into the conversation. I mean, I'll keep it going for another 10, 15 minutes or so if other people have any thoughts to add in. But what about you, Dayton?
Well, yeah, I'm just pondering or chewing on a little bit of what you were talking about here and trying to figure out a good place to interject. Yeah, it's I don't know, can we apply AI to like maybe the licensing process or getting Starship to fly a little bit faster or something? I don't know if you guys saw what happened with that, but it's just we kind of need to apply it to a lot of different areas. I think just if anything, just to kind of clean up the paperwork filing and kind of clean up some of these bottlenecks that we're having with development. We're looking at one of the which is going to be run a lot on artificial intelligence. The whole infrastructure is going to support it, but one of the if not the biggest, you know, probably one of the most important projects in the 21st century is getting hung up on governmental red tape right now and nonsense. IFT5 was ideally supposed to fly. Well, they've been ready to fly since August. They were supposed to fly this month, and now it's looking like November. So there you have it. I don't really know what you could write in the way of AI to kind of like move the that whole processing thing along. I'm sure a lot of that was probably a little bit political, um, but it just seems to me like there are just so many vectors that if we wrote better you know coding and had better game theory and looked at these problems from a lot of different aspects with either these chips or without them and really fed the AI properly with, the correct inputs. And I know correct is subjective, but if we really kind of took our time with it and did it properly, we can clean a lot of this nonsense up. I don't know if that's kind of making sense to you, but I was kind of sidetracked, in your conversation. I was reviewing this article and slightly irritated and kind of thinking, if we were able to take a lot of this hang-ups that we have, with the governmental apparatus of just developing technologies kind of out of the way. I understand the laws need to be kind of kept in place and we need checks and balances, but we are kind of just too far behind the curve right now, I think, and we've fallen behind in a lot of realms with this. So I don't know. I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there. I'm not sure if that ties into what you were asking, but or if I got a sidetrack with that. But go ahead, definitely.
No, it's great, and I couldn't agree more. Actually, um, it's actually one of, if in my opinion, I think it's going to be the largest use case of AI, in particular being large language models that I think will do the majority of this actuating, right? Being the intermediary, removing the bias. This is a huge issue that we have on an entire societal based structure, right? The theory of game theory being something that had to be a proponent that was used by specific minds to think about like globalism, how we came to such a global technological advanced society because of that same biased structure that exists in our substrate of wanting to survive, which can create very dark situations because if you're scarce or scared of survival, you will do very very dark things at times, and so it creates a not the most um, enriched communal society. And I think that artificial intelligence is poised to be that position. To allow the communal actions, the objects being transferred between each interaction, yet take the bias out of it. And so, maybe for something like a rocket, you have a particular structure of list of things that need to be checked off. As long as those things can be physically proved to be checked off, you put it through a system that gives you the license, right? There shouldn't be any questions about, oh, you know what, we give us 3 weeks, we want to think about it, we're going to check on some other stuff. No, 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 there's none of this. You think you might want some other stuff. No, it's let's do it. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Dayton, on that.
Yeah, statistically speaking, is there any possible loss to life or personal property? I mean, SpaceX is going to assume financial costs for any loss of their own property, but outside of obviously loss of any life, or any anything major, anything obvious, but these silly hangups over whether or not a hot stage component falls on a fish, is literally slowing down the progress of humanity into the solar system. We have a Mars transit window coming up here soon that we're trying to make, and it's nonsense like this, that is kind of, undoing ourselves, and when we could be focusing our efforts with AI and, you know, to bettering that, on the regulatory side, on the efficiency side and everything else. And Shellfish got her hand up. Go ahead, man.
That's exactly it, and you're right. I want to go to Shellfish, but I just wanted to say, from the incentive part, from the game theoretical part, that person who wants to write that fine, it's because they're going to make some sort of extra money from it in the end of the year, and so like their incentive is to try and hurt, in this particular case, SpaceX, which is just obviously maddening, but it's one of those things that I think really need to be fixed in our society for sure. Shellfish, though, please jump in.
Well, it was kind of in regards to what we were speaking about this morning in the XRP space with governance and actually maybe it wasn't so much governance, but the escrow in particular and how it was being released each month and then it bought back up, etc. And I was thinking, God, if we really could get the spending under control in the government, as the government DAO, like proof of work with the AI, that would probably get everything going like super fast. Like, okay, we got the budget under control. Like, look at how effective this is. And I know that they have these programs in the schools where they can actually see how engaged the kids are in studying, right? Like it's like, oh, your eyes are moving off the page, 100,000 a year, and they're making millions off of whatever. So anyway, I digress, and yeah, I can totally see where like the government DAOs, like on a federal level or I don't know, yeah, I don't know. I'll give the mic back to you. I ranted.
I don't mean to just jump in, but it's true. It's like, yeah, you got some congressperson who said, yeah, I read that. I voted on that document. The 100,000 page law, that thing, you read that? Interesting. Okay. What's your comprehension of this particular section? Just throw it at them. Well, your constituents and a significant portion of the American electorate, but you claim to have read this, so you don't have a fundamental understanding of the law. This is the problem, particularly in the field of tech, when we have the vast majority of our electorate, people in charge of us, they're on the octogenarian side of things. They don't have a grasp of this stuff. It's difficult to explain it to them, and a lot of them just, frankly, don't seem to have any interest in it either. They're worried about the forever wars, they're worried about all this other jazz, and I personally think space flight and fixing our national infrastructure should be just a matter of national policy, immune to, party politics and all that other stuff. It's got to be something that we just get done quickly. And I think that we could, and I think AI could play a significant role in that. But definitely cleaning up, the legislation and, to what Shellfish was alluding to, with, just the way things are voted on, the way things are laws are signed into place, and how a lot of it, excuse me, happens on a Friday night, while you're half asleep, and then you come into play and you have all these laws that are in place, and none of them are doing a thing to really do any real governance over key aspects of AI that are being developed. So I don't know. I'll put it in park there. I threw a lot out there.
That's it, and it might take a generation, unfortunately. And I think the only reason I say that is because, and that's not from a technological advancement side, that's from being able to remove what would be the intermediary that is a Homo sapien at this point. And I only think that because it takes a while to have that relevance of trust. Now, of course, I could be mistaken, and I do believe that we'll have such high compute power and such substantial AI that between 2027 or 2032 we'll have something as people like to think of it as a hyper intelligent system, or as AGI, artificial general intelligence, which of course I'm not one to believe that it exists, because I believe it exists already as us, so I don't think it has to furthermore be developed. But for the task driven possibilities that we'll have from computational systems, I think the magnitudes will be so high that there might be more of a trust aspect to it because of the proven capabilities. Maybe things like FSA and and people don't even realize that airplanes essentially fly themselves today. So I think there'll be like a lot of different other societal things that come out that show that AI and automation combined can pretty much do anything that a human will be able to do. And then further on more than that road, and then of course robotics, having robots in everyone's house. Like if everyone had an Optimus by 2031, there'd be no it'd almost be no question in my mind by 2035, right? Like the government intermediaries of it being Homo sapiens would be removed, and there would be just no need for it anymore, because we'd be able to have a much more technologically connected to society, where things like voting and participation would be more incentive based for the reward of progressing the species and society, rather than making a couple bucks and being able to go buy you know whatever you need to just be able to survive. Of course, that was a lot there. I'm sorry. But yeah, right at the end of our space here for today. This has been such a great conversation. I appreciate you, Dayton, for coming up. I think I will be back this Thursday, 4 p.m. Uh, this week. But if not, Monday next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So love you guys, and I hope to see you guys all then.
Great space, Death Ranger. Thank you for having me up.
Yeah, thank you for
Good space, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, guys.